Shedeur Sanders has had his butt hurt because of some of the stories that he has heard from these reporters. Now, obviously, he's going to have to develop, and he's got a lot to prove. He's obviously going to have to shine as a Sanders. His father is prime. He's one of the greatest corners to ever play the game, one of the most athletic, gifted guys we've seen come out over the years from the NFL. Shedeur Sanders obviously is going to stand for something. You look at Shedeur Sanders, he's got a lot to prove because he's looked at as a guy that's going to be tailing behind him, trying to prove himself. He plays for the Cleveland Browns, an organization that doesn't know how to develop quarterbacks. They had one, and they decided to let him go as Baker Mayfield went to the Rams and then obviously made his way to the Buccaneers and has looked very, very good since he's become a Buccaneer. But you're looked at as a young superstar player because you come from a Sanders family that is so gifted. Shedeur Sanders obviously has come out and said a lot of interesting things over the last couple of weeks, a lot of controversial things over the last couple of weeks. We've seen it before even the draft. I think one of the main reasons why he was passed on as long as he was in the draft was because of his mouth and not showing up and doing what he should have done at the combine. He should have thrown. He should have done every single thing some of these quarterbacks in front of him were drafted in front of him too. And that was the problem. Now, he had a pro day. His pro day wasn't that good. And if he was a smart young quarterback and he knows that he was going to get plastered over the last couple of months before the draft, he should have went to the combine and he actually should have shown people a little bit more respect, especially reporters, when he was going up there and saying the things that he has said. And then during the draft, as I said many times before, after the first round, he was in a rap booth or whatever. He was in a music booth, hip-hop artist or whatever the hell he's trying to do on the side.
Legendary.
Yeah, legendary rapper. But Shedeur Sanders is a controversial person. He comes from a controversial family. And when you have confidence, like this family has had over the years, no matter who their father was or what they've done on a football field, he shows up the same friggin' way. It doesn't matter where he is or what he's doing. He is going to show up there and he is going to be that elaborate personality on a mic. And to me, what Sanders has said over the last couple of weeks is pretty obvious. He's very confident about who he is. He's so confident that he believes he's going to win this job one way or another in the next year or so. Now, Dillon Gabriel, we have not seen him on a football field, and we might not see him all preseason because of an injury. But when he does come back, he is ahead of him on the depth charts. And until we know what they have with Dillon Gabriel, who was a Heisman Trophy candidate, he's still going to be looked at as the fourth guy on this roster. Is he going to make this roster? Is he going to make... Obviously, he's going to be on the practice squad. But if he makes this roster, and this Browns team brings in 4 quarterbacks, which is unheard of. I've never seen a team put 4 quarterbacks on a roster. It's usually 2 or 3. If they have a fourth, that takes one position away that they got to take away on a football field. Either a punt returner, a linebacker, a defensive lineman, an offensive lineman, a running back. Right now, he's the third guy. It would be Joe Flacco. It would be Kenny Pickett. And then it would be, obviously, Dillon Gabriel, who was a third-round talent. And Snoop Huntley is not making this team. The only reason why he's on the roster is because of the preseason and Dillon Gabriel's injury and Kenny Pickett's injury. They need to make sure that they're not overdoing Sanders and putting him out there too long where he gets hurt or they put him in harm's way. He's a young quarterback, and even though he played 3 quarters and he still has a lot to prove, I know a lot of people are so excited to watch this kid play in 3 quarters. 138 yards and 2 touchdowns isn't something to be bragging about in 3 quarters. Okay, I understand it's the preseason. He's playing against second and third string players. And until we see what Shedeur can do against first string players, I don't know why anybody's sitting here and believing that this guy is going to be any much more than where he was drafted as a 5th-round talent. Now, he's got a tremendous amount of talent. He can move inside and out of the pocket. He's got a pretty good arm. He can make every single throw. The problem with Shedeur Sanders over the years is, 1, they've said his accuracy, and 2, the problem he has is off the field. Is what he says, not studying, not watching film like we've heard over the last couple of weeks. This guy has had a problem doing that. Deion Sanders never had a problem. Deion Sanders, no matter how talented he was, playing for the 49ers, playing for the Cowboys, or wherever he played, at the Atlanta Falcons, the stories I've heard about Deion Sanders when I've had different guys play with him over the years, they said that Deion Sanders he was a guy that studied the game. He studied players. He studied wide receivers. He would go in the preseason, go in the offseason, and make sure that whoever he is matched up against, he was ready to play them, and he was weeks ahead of what he was going to play against and know who he was going to play against, no matter how talented and how great they were. And that was the difference between Deion Sanders and everybody else. When you're comparing Deion Sanders to some of the greatest obviously corners, DBs of all time, Deion Sanders is ahead of everybody's list. Why? Because of his athleticism. And he was a punt returner. And Darrelle Revis, when he came into the NFL, he was a great punt returner. But guess what the Jets did? They didn't want to put him in harm's way. They made sure that that's all he played. He was a corner back when the Jets drafted him. When they moved up, when Mangini moved up to get him at 14 from Pitt. The fact is, when you look at a guy like Darrelle Revis, the only person that I think is compared to Deion Sanders in a 6-year span is Darrelle Revis. Now, there are quite a few great corners over the years, but Darrelle Revis was not a guy that was on, in front of the camera, in front of the mic, bragging about how great he was. He let his game do the talking. That's how they created Revis Island. As we heard, Rex Ryan was the one that first said it. Well, you're on Revis Island when you're out there playing against Darrelle Revis. And they created a different, obviously personality in Darrelle Revis when he was on a football field. He was vicious and graceful when he was out there. Deion Sanders wasn't vicious. He would talk a lot of crap, and he would use his athleticism. Now, Deion Sanders didn't want to come off the field as an offensive player. He was a punt returner. The 49ers used him as a punt returner. The Cowboys used him as a punt returner, and so did the Atlanta Falcons. Shedeur Sanders is not a corner. He is a quarterback. It's the most important position in the NFL, and you're going to take a lot of pressure from obviously the broadcast of the media over the next couple of months. No matter where and what part of the depth charts he's in, he is going to be attacked on or off the field on what he does off the field or what he does on the field on the sidelines. Deion Sanders was a guy that prepared every single game. Is Shedeur a guy that prepares over? And again, going back to what we've heard through different media platforms and GMs over the last couple of months. He is not like his father. He doesn't watch a lot of film. He puts himself in harm's way when he talks to the media. And Grossi, I don't know Tony Grossi in a hole in the wall. And if there was a hole in the wall, I'm hopefully not sticking anything in that hole, because obviously Tony Grossi has his own thoughts to Shedeur Sanders and what type of person Shedeur Sanders is. We have to understand that Tony has a job to do. No matter what Tony says, Shedeur needs to understand this is what the media is going to do. When he goes to New York and he plays the Jets or the Giants or even the Buffalo Bills, what do you think the media is going to do to him if he's out there and he's playing like garbage? They're going to tear him another asshole. That's what they're going to do. He needs to understand that. He needs to understand that this is the media world. You wanted to step in the prime time. You want to step on the football field with some of the great players in the NFL. You got to go out there and play your game. You're not going to start bitching and moaning that somebody's writing a story about you that you don't like. And then after a game, you're going to go up to the guy and say, well, why are you sending out negative stuff? Why are you talking about me like that? I mean, come on. I've heard this many, many times. Even Russell Wilson, who's been very much attacked over the last couple of years. Why? Because of the whole Seattle thing, jumping ship, going to the Broncos, making the money that he made over there with the Broncos, and then the Broncos doing everything they can to get rid of him. And then he goes from Pittsburgh to now the Giants. And he's at the tail end of his career because teams are sick and tired of him. Now, we don't know if the stories are true, but we've had guys on the show that like him, and we have had guys on the show that didn't like him. So what is it? If you're going to go out there and you're going to open your big mouth, you got to show yourself on a football field. If you think 14 for 23, 138 yards and 2 touchdowns is enough to prove yourself, well, boy, oh boy, you're going to learn very quick how the NFL is going to hit you square in your forehead.